what I've come to realize that people are standing in is a lot of dis-ease because there's just so many habits that we have that we hold, and um, they're leading a lot of us into a place where we don't feel well. And so really the Synergy Thrive, my whole thing is about thriving because you're making a synergy between the pillars of wellness. And what I view as the pillars of wellness are the synergy and connection that's really feeding off of each other between your mind and your body, your gut, your brain, and your spirit. So that all of these things have an integral piece to be able to connect together and make you feel good, like get into a place where you're actually waking up really feeling well, have energy, thriving.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever and wherever you are watching or listening. This is the Holistic Monitor, and I'm your host, Nic Scogna. The Holistic Monitor is a wellness podcast featuring life energy research, health and wellness transformation, self-improvement and empowerment, philosophy, spirituality, and now guest interviews as well. We look forward to your comments on our YouTube channel at Holistic Monitor, and you can also listen on the go with us at Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and more. And with that, let's get today's show started. On this episode of the Holistic Monitor, we welcome Kelly Cole, a nurse practitioner and intuitive healer who is passionate about helping women and moms thrive by breaking through blocks and healing at a soul level. With over 17 years of experience in nursing, Kelly understands the importance of addressing the spirit-mind, body-gut-brain connection to achieve optimal health and well-being. Kelly's unique approach to healing, known as the Synergy Thrive method, combines multiple modalities to achieve holistic wellness. Through her intuitive abilities and expertise, Kelly serves as a guide to help her clients heal themselves from the inside out. Today, we delve into Kelly's journey and learn how to break through our own blocks and achieve greater levels of health and vitality. Tune in to the Holistic Monitor for our informative discussion with Kelly Cole. Kelly Cole, you're a nurse practitioner with 17 years of experience, and you specialize in women and moms wellness and healing at a soul level. You combine various modalities to address the spirit, mind, body, gut, and brain. And you're a mom of two.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. What got you started in this whole thing?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on today. I'm excited to be here. And
Glad to have you.
yeah, so essentially being in the nursing field for a long time. I started in 2004 and I started out working with kids. So in this whole process of working with families and patients, you are intimate, like you're guiding them through traumatic things, you're guiding them through really intense events. And I started kind of noticing that it felt like what we were offering was helping, but only to a certain point. And it just bothered me. I was like, I feel like the same kids, I see them keep coming in like over and over again. And why? Like, what's going on? And, how can we help so that they aren't doing that all the time? And so that was kind of like the beginning of my question. And as my career progressed, I became a nurse practitioner. So in the state of Maryland, where I live, that's, you have your inpatient panel, you rate all your orders, like you can have an independent practice. And all of the things that I was seeing were interestingly like what I consider to be adult problems. So a lot of diabetes, severe obesity, and blood pressure issues, and so much of this that I was previously seeing in teenagers. And as the years progressed, they actually turned into middle schoolers. And then it was like high-end elementary schoolers, like the 8, 9, 10-year-olds were coming. And I was like, what is happening? So, when you start like seeing it firsthand, it just makes you question. It makes you question a lot of things. And
Right.
so that was kind of like the very beginning. Fast forward a little bit, and the job that I had ended up in was a pediatric pain management position.
Mm-hmm.
In that, we saw this wide array of a lot of things, but part of that was also pediatric oncology. So I was seeing a lot of children who were very ill, and some of our role was palliative care too. So helping them when they were really in the end of their life.
Wow.
This led a lot of questions. Like then
Right.
you like tie this in. My father got sick right around the same time, and like boom, it was like, how many awakenings can you have at the same time? It was like,
Right.
I have a lot of questions. I'm seeing a lot of things. I'm in the middle of all these situations. I'm trying to like support these families with this
Right.
like very intense situation. And I'm in my own situation of like having a very sick parent and having a lot of questions. Just, why are these things happening? So essentially, I really needed to dig deeper. I was on more of a search for truth. I wanted to understand the root causes of some of these diseases. I wanted to understand how we as a society and parents could do better as models for our children, who then that would lead me into a discovery on not only like from an emotional standpoint, emotional regulation and how your body is dealing with your emotions and your traumas, but then also from spiritual standpoint, like what's going on, and is this, how do I feel about all of these things, and how do I want my kids to look at the world differently than I did growing up? So that is where I started.
Yeah. Wow. It's heavy.
Kind of.
So you got into traditionally with the traditional methods of nursing,
Yeah.
doing like symptom care, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And what got you involved in the medical field in general?
I think when I was little, I was like, I'm going to be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I had an uncle who I loved, and my uncle was like, hey, Kelly, you know what you need to be? And I was like, what? And he was a physical therapist who had us in practice. And he was like,
Okay.
it doesn't matter. You just need to make a lot of money. And I was like, oh, okay. And this was like in my mind. So I
Right.
was like, I just need to do something. And I thought I wanted to be a doctor. So I went into like the whole medical training. And then when I figured out, I looked at the timeline, which is ironic because I ended up being in school for so much time
Right.
anyway. But
It's a
I
lot
was
of
like, I
time.
don't want to be in school that long. So I started doing nursing, and I think that my heart is a nurse's heart. I truly like connect to people differently. And I'm grateful for that. So I'm
Right.
grateful that I went into the medical field as a nurse and not a physician. I think that was meant to be my path. But yeah, I wanted to help people. I wanted
Yeah.
to be a healing presence, and to help people. So that was
Right.
that was where that started.
Okay. And nursing really is more of a direct contact to the um, patient or
Oh yeah.
client, whereas a physician kind of rolls in, does the super
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah. Has
the
their
writing scripts and
opinions.
whatnot. And
Yeah.
yeah, 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 right.
So
Puts an opinion out, maybe orders things, but the nurse is like kind of maybe running the blood work or doing
the
more
nurses
contact with the
at
client.
yeah, and at the bedside for a 12-hour time period where you're intimately getting to know
Right.
what's going on with the family dynamic and what the patient responds to and what their favorite cartoons are and how they like to, eat, or what they like to drink, and like you're in it, like you're
Yeah.
you're deeply in it, down to how many times they need to count before they do, a move out of the bed, or how
Mm,
many like songs you need to sing before you change their dressing. I mean, that in
right.
pediatrics, we're like getting into that level on the nursing side. So yeah,
Yeah.
but all of that has like made me a better listener, made me a really good observer of how things are going in a dynamic and how things are
Hmm.
playing out in a room, and what fears are there. Like all of that stuff kind of gets
Right.
absorbed naturally over time when you have like all this experience doing something. So it lends itself into a really good role of, now I feel like I'm doing more coaching, and we're talking like you need those listening skills, you need
Right.
those coaching skills. And so all of that has kind of naturally led into what I'm doing now.
Okay.
So it's good.
Yeah, definitely. And now, were you aware of, or were you having any symptoms or any kind of reference from the clients at all? Were you getting kind of, baggage that you'd bring home or anything like that?
Oh,
Did
yeah.
you have a system of kind of trying to leave it in a basket at the door or something like that? Like,
Yeah. Um, I mean, they're always kind of in a needing to compartmentalize when you're in the middle of things. There's also a lot of good things that happen when you debrief with other people that are going through the same stuff. So
right, right.
talking through it, going through all of that kind of, what did you think? And when they said that, did you think this? And, getting the view of someone else. And that's always helpful. Just feeling like you have a comrade that you went through that battle with.
Right.
Very, very valuable. Now I think that the way that I would continue to shake off some of that is a little bit different, like then, because I know how to do things a little bit differently now.
Right.
I have different methods that I use now that I would guide other people through than I did back at the beginning of my nursing career. I wish I had someone who could have said, hey, like try this
Right.
breathing method. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
like do this like body dance, like, all these kind of things that now I think that it's more in people's awareness. And back
Mm-hmm.
in the early 2000s, it
Less so,
wasn't
yeah.
as, yeah, wasn't as
Right.
common.
That could be a whole nother business for you, going in
Yeah.
and training,
Hey,
doing
that's
some seminars for
a good
nurses and
idea.
doctors, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we do. We get ideas.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And so, and that drove you to where you're at now. So fast forward,
Yeah.
you developed the Synergy Thrive method.
Yeah. So
Um,
essentially, what I've come to realize that people are standing in is a lot of dis-ease because there's just so many habits that we have that we hold, and um, they're leading a lot of us into a place where we don't feel well. And so really, the Synergy Thrive, my whole thing is about thriving because you're making a synergy between the pillars of wellness. And
hmm,
what I view as the pillars of wellness are the synergy and connection that's really feeding off of each other between your mind and your body, your gut, your brain, and your spirit. So that all of these things have an integral piece to be able to connect together and make you feel good. Like get into a place where you're actually waking up really feeling well, have energy, um, thriving and
yeah,
feeling
I
well.
love thriving is just a fantastic. It's a great word.
Yeah.
Struggle, no. Thrive, yes.
Yes.
I just want to have the right way of saying how you're approaching life and where you want to be in the future. So
Yeah.
you bring together the different levels of a person's beingness and help all of those elements synergize
Yeah.
to allow the person to thrive. Does it sound
Yeah.
okay? And
Exactly.
what kind of methods or what approach do you have when a client comes to you to
So,
evaluate and move forward with them?
um, well, in thinking about it, like this is my this is my framework, but we always start with where the people are. So if somebody comes in and they're just like, I don't really know what's wrong with me, but I know that I don't feel good and I feel bloated all the time. And I'm like, okay, great place to start. So let's kind of like think about where are we with your gut and start on that path. What I find is that when you start in one area, it touches other things. So if you are starting simply saying, I know that I'm going to have a little bit more awareness around how I feel when I eat. I'm not even going to change anything. I'm just going to simply tap into myself and be like, how do I feel when
Right.
I have my breakfast, when I have my lunch, when I have my dinner? And a lot of times people start to realize that, you know what, I really don't feel well after I eat this certain thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I change it up and I eat something like eggs in the morning, and I usually have like a bagel, I do feel better. So that's our tip. So we start small and we literally just meet you where you are. But usually what we see is that it starts to affect other things. So as soon as you start tuning in there in one area and start doing tiny steps, it starts to affect everything else. So when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense, because especially if we start in a place like the gut, your gut is typically the place that is holding a lot of power. And we never gave it as much credit as it deserved throughout the years, especially like when I was in nursing school. It was pretty much like your gut, you eat stuff, it absorbs stuff, and then it leaves. Like it wasn't like,
Yeah, it has a
oh,
chemical reaction. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
it wasn't like your microbiome. And it's like full of all of this amazing goodness that directs your, it can
Right.
literally start directing
Everything.
your cravings. It's
Yeah.
insane. And we don't even know everything about it yet. Like it's like insane how much
Yeah.
that is an integral piece. So you are talking about hormone creation, you're talking about dopamine creation, like your feel good hormones. It's
Yeah.
crucial that you
It's
have
all
a
that.
healthy gut. So all
Right.
of that stuff. And so if you even start like paying a little bit of attention, you'll see that you start to sleep a little bit better. Maybe you're eating a little bit differently. If you're paying attention, it can start to like switch up what you're craving, switch up what you're feeling like eating. And if you're switching that to something that's in a healthier version, you will start to have a little more energy. You will start to feel a little better. But we kind of go around the circle of the different things. And so when we're talking about mind versus brain, for instance, when we're talking about your mind, we're really speaking more to, do you have negative thoughts or fears or anxieties that are popping up for you frequently? Let's start to like talk about those, tackle those a little bit. When we're talking about your brain, we're really talking about simply your organ in your head. Like, how is it functioning? Are we feeding it good stuff? Are we feeding it like fish and oils? And are we feeding it things that it likes? Um, are you sleeping okay? Like just simple stuff that we can start the question in a really small place and kind of meet you where you are. And as soon as we start asking those things and just even like tuning into, oh, I didn't really think about that. Like maybe let's start thinking about that. The shifts are really a domino effect. So as soon as you start feeling a little bit better, you start sleeping a little bit better. What do you know? You feel a little bit less stressed. You're a little bit less inflamed. That means you're maybe not having as much discomfort in your body. Maybe you wake up and you don't have as many aches and pains, and your bottoms of your feet don't hurt. Like these things are all going together. Um, and the other thing to think about is even like there's studies that they've done recently where they're showing blood sugar variation. So like how your body is reacting when you eat. And it's showing that if you have slept really well, that your blood sugar doesn't spike as high after you have like a normal meal. Like you can have the same exact meal and have like a super crappy night of sleep, and your blood sugar is like soaring sky high.
Yeah.
And, the differences that we're noticing just between something really simple, like getting 30 minutes more of sleeping.
Yeah. As
Um,
simple as that too.
it's
Right.
easy. It's easy, but it's still difficult in, practice. Like it's like easy on
Yeah.
paper, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
it's changing your habits. So all of that goes together. And to me, some of the biggest things too that I see a shift in for people is if you start being more open to tapping into your spirituality as well. So spirituality and religion are not equal to me. They're
Right.
separate. And I am very clear about that. But the basis of any of that to me, it's like a giant spectrum. To me, it can really just start with like gratitude
Mm-hmm.
and holding gratitude, being open to loving yourself, being open to receiving love. So many of us are like full of love, but it's all for like everybody else all around us. And some of us it's hard to like
Yeah.
accept other people's love. It like doesn't feel safe. And so
Right. Right.
when you're in a place where you're willing to love yourself enough to start to make some of these shifts, kill some of these like bad thoughts that are happening all the time, like negativity that's circling,
Mm-hmm.
love yourself enough to stand up and be like, I deserve better than eating that every day that I shouldn't be eating. I deserve better than to listen to this thought that keeps circling in my mind every day. Some of us are just so programmed to it, used
Yeah.
to it. It's like running in the background. We're not even paying attention to it. So it's literally
Right.
like, not only do we need to like acknowledge it and be like, oh, I didn't want that in my mind all day, but also being in a place where you're willing to love yourself enough to also say, and I deserve not to have that.
Right. Right. There you go. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's the no factor.
Yeah.
No, I'm good. I'm better than that. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm better than
absolutely.
that.
Sugar addiction is a huge. It's
Oh,
a
yeah.
huge addiction. I mean, it's in everything. It's um, there's natural sugar, artificial sugar. Well, not artificial, but refined sugars.
Hmm.
That seems to be one of the main, I'd say, addictions that I see in people, in
Hmm.
myself as well. I have a lot of I embattle myself in sugar. Fight it, and I do. The same thing. I feel like I've conquered something when I say, no, I'm good. I'm going to go with a
It's,
savory versus a
yeah.
sweet.
Well, it's
It's
powerful.
yeah, it's a strong driver, and it's a dependency at some level. And then it takes, and therefore it takes quite a bit of discipline to kind of, first you need to, like you said, turn on that bulb of consciousness to be aware
Hmm.
just of the fact that you're putting something that's repetitive maybe inside of your body through eating
Right.
sugar. Oh, I'm always going for ice cream or something like that.
Hmm.
And just being aware, oh, I'm always going for ice cream.
Yeah.
Wow, what if I didn't? How would I feel sleeping that night or whatever it might be? But
Well,
that sugar is a big one. Definitely a gut oriented chemistry change.
for sure. And it's
Yeah,
also brain oriented. Like
brain.
for when they studied that, I mean, it was lighting up the same pleasure centers in your brain that cocaine does.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
really hitting the same targets. And yeah, your body likes it because if yeah, like you're like, heck yeah, I need more of that.
Right. Yeah. And it starts early too.
Oh,
Like you were saying with working with kids, you're
yeah.
seeing things developing earlier and earlier. And I'd say it's probably sugar, you know, is
Um,
a great in a great way.
100%. And it's all, I
Yeah.
mean, that's good grief. That's a whole other million
Yeah.
podcasts, probably. Like all of the food industry, which is purposefully like putting everything in there and gearing a lot of the packaging and the labeling towards younger kids. And
Yeah.
it's just,
Mm,
it's like chips and like other stuff that you're like, oh, there's not sugar in it, but it is like it's just in everything and like artificial
yeah.
chemicals and dyes too. So just a bunch of stuff that you're like,
Yeah.
that doesn't make you feel good. You're not, it's like not real
Right.
food. I mean, by the end of the day, by the end of the time they're like done with it, it's like started out as maybe something, but
It's
it's not
crazy.
real food anymore. So it's
Yeah.
insane. But that also goes to the microbiome. Like your gut flora will start to change the more that it has, the more that it wants, and it will start to direct the craving to that
Mm,
too. So like you that same kind of sugar, it's like not only did they do the taste testing so that you have like the one more effect, like it goes away, the taste in your mouth goes away fast enough that you want to
hmm.
put another one in so quick.
Right.
So like they do that. It's brain oriented as well. Like that's genius, but
Hmm.
terrible for us. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, and then your gut flora also like starts to feed the ones that are like ready for more of that. So then your body asks for
Mm,
more.
right.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. And I believe it was on another podcast that I was listening to that they were talking about this battle to remove vending machines with junk food in elementary schools
Hmm.
for kids. Which I just thought, oh my gosh, vending machines for kids. And that's in the United States here. That's a thing. It's the kids want change to go to the vending machine to get a soda or something. I'm not even sure what's in the machines, but I think
Yeah.
that's what school lunch is for. It's you can control the intake a little bit better with
Yeah.
school lunch, but it starts early. Starts
I
early.
know. Well, and I
Yeah.
think that I mean there's so many really good like nutrition people out there and really good people that are out there on social media right now too, just like doing a good job doing like, hey everybody, like this is like what kids like to eat. There's I think there's one that's called Kids Eat in Color, and I really like her because I feel like she's just realistic. She's like super upfront about like, this is what I offer my kids. Maybe they don't like it all the time, but like, it's not easy to be a parent right now and like have all these obstacles. But at the same time, it's like never been more important to try to create a really solid understanding for your kids of what it means to be full and what it means to like maybe eat things in order where they feel good afterwards. Like, I am a big subscriber to just eating things in an order that's like, okay, make sure you have like your protein or your like nuts or whatever first. And like, if we're having, like a salad or something like, or pasta on the side, like I want to do the pasta and the bread last. Like I try to have it be
Least
that way.
important.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
just
least
kind of
important.
have it like the meat and the vegetables in there, because then the blood sugar will not spike as high if it already has a little bit of fat and veggies in there to kind of like get the fiber and the fat going. And I just tell them, I'm like, oh, we just eat it in this order. And like, that's what I do. I don't feel like it's not saying don't eat it. It's not restricting. It's not anything. It's just like, oh, we like to do it in this order. And
Right.
this is whatever. So,
It's the
this is,
whole, finish your veggies first and then you can have the pudding or whatever
yeah,
afterwards.
just,
Make sure you eat the real food first.
yeah, eat
Yeah.
the real food, like make sure you're getting that stuff in. But, it's so important to kind of like, between that stuff and then also some, that was never anything that like I was taught as a kid, but it's stuff that we're seeing now when we're like looking into some of this information. Because now we have things like continuous glucose monitors and things that people are biohacking themselves in ways that we had never
Right.
even seen before. So it's so interesting to like pay attention to some of that information, dig into some of that research a little bit, and like still kind of take the pieces that you think are applicable and doable for your life.
Right.
But between that and then like having a true breathing ability or like emotional regulation tools, like things like this for as parents that like we weren't taught those things. Like
Right.
those weren't in our parents' toolbox, and it wasn't their fault, but it just wasn't.
Yeah.
Um, and like, the emotional and spiritual connection like may or may not have been a thing for a lot of people too. And I think that just a lot of these pieces are pieces that I feel like we can pass them down, and these kids can be totally different people growing up than what we've seen so far. Like I think
Yeah.
that these kids have a really good shot. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. I have
Of
an
like,
18-month-old and I feel like the levels of different information and approaches.
yeah,
It's like a war out there, a war zone, depending on what
I
you
know.
choose, and you know, it's really difficult to know what the right way is, and then of
Yeah,
course the personality, his personality, get to kind of go with that based on the
yeah,
food.
yeah.
I remember before having him, I thought, well, he's not just going to be a peanut butter and jelly only eater, and he isn't, but I'm finding that he is very specific in wanting to eat one thing very easily and
Hmm.
not other things too
Yeah.
easily, which has been interesting. I'm like, well, here comes that food isolation thing where he just wants to
Oh
eat one
yeah.
thing and just can't I can't let you do it.
I know it's
Yeah,
hard. It takes a lot of perseverance, a lot of like checking into yourself just to be like, is this really that important right now? Or,
right.
and the whole war zone thing is real. I
Yeah,
mean,
it
you get
feels
on
like it. It's like, oh
any
my
like
gosh.
mom group and you're like,
Yeah,
dear God, like, it's really, it can get so ugly and it's unnecessary. I'm like, from my
yeah,
perspective, as being a pediatric person for all this time, I'm just like, things come and go, things ebb and
right.
flow. And at the end of the day, like, what's the most important thing to you? And that's all that matters. And if
Yeah,
somebody's going to be like saying something about it, that's like, I always just
that's
kind of
their
felt like,
deal.
that's on you. Like, it's not,
Right.
it's
It's
not your
their deal
business.
to deal
Yeah.
with.
I'm like, I don't really
Yeah.
get it. but it is hard.
Yeah.
I think parenting right now is hard, but I also think at the same time we have a lot of opportunity to just infuse a different way and kind of just like hopefully leave them healthier kids. It's the struggle's real.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot stacked against the parent
Yeah.
that is looking to
For
live
sure.
that way. It's not the easy way. I mean,
Right.
that's
Right. It's definitely a
plain and
battle. That's for
simple.
sure.
Yeah, it's not the
Wow.
easy way, but it is. So if you find that that's important to you, then there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you have a podcast, Synergy Thrive podcast.
I do. Yeah, it's a Synergy Thrive podcast.
Do you cover these topics? You go through these different topics regarding kids, nutrition, school lunches, that sort of thing?
We haven't been into the school lunch field. That's not off the table though. But
not off the table.
We definitely
good conversation.
Yeah. We are we've gone into a lot of spiritual conversation. We've gone into calming techniques and emotional regulation, and a lot of like self-love conversation with some different guests and things like that. But at the end of the day, all of our conversations are always geared towards what is going to be good for you as the parent and like helping you be the best that you can be. And then that in effect is always causing a good downstream effect for your kids. So at the end of the day, like anything that we're talking about always has that in mind, because to me, this is what it's about. Like my secret weapon is the parents, because they have all the power. The kids, as much as you could work with the kids, they don't have the power. And if you know that you have a really like thriving parent, that's one of their goals is to be feeling good and to be feeling like they're connected to themselves and be on like a good path to whatever their journey is. I always think that they're going to bring their kids along with them. So
yeah,
it
makes most sense for sure.
Yeah.
And how long have you been doing the podcast?
So it's been about a year.
Okay.
So we're loving it. It's really fun. There's been so many good connections, and it's been such an awesome way to meet so many really good people that are also out there just like making their mark on the world. And I love that.
Yeah, it's definitely something I enjoy too, is just it's like, wow, there's so many people doing great things out there.
Yeah, it's cool.
Well, and that's also the focus of the show, so that helps.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. And so as far as the Synergy Thrive method, a client comes in, you find out their major complaint, do an evaluation, maybe do some workups or some evaluations through like any kind of analysis or anything like that, like urine, saliva, or anything like that.
No, so we don't go into testing as much as it's not like functional medicine necessarily. This is really more of a coaching. So this is really walking through each one of these steps in the framework and starting where they feel like they're having the most trouble. I do have a bit of an intuitive gift as well. So I have to say that there have been some times when people are coming in and they're like, I'm feeling honestly just so stuck in, I don't know why, I feel like I'm just having a really hard time around money right now. It's stressing me out. That's an interesting like perspective, because they just know they're dealing with a lot of stress and they say that it's for money, but we can kind of work through all of the different areas, but we kind of just stick to one at a time and kind of meet them where they are and coach going through that way. I sometimes have had people saying, I feel like if I'm asking them, do you have any, like, let's go through negative thoughts. Let's get through energy here. Like, what's going on with this? And they're like, I'm not coming up with anything. And I've had a couple of people that I'm working with say, they don't have anything. And then I'm like, what's coming to me is this. And then they'll say, oh, actually, my mom always used to say that to me. Or actually, I had that happen, at my job. So
like a left field type of thing.
And so sometimes it's like not completely conscious.
Right.
But it's something that I've been working on over the past year. Actually, I'm working with a mentor on that, and
Hmm.
it's been an interesting evolution, and I'm infusing it into this practice
Yeah.
because it
Smart.
actually gives
Yeah.
an interesting insight. There's been a couple deep generational types of passed down thought processes that we've had to kind of like break down and work through.
Hmm.
Um, it's really healing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost
So,
like connecting the dots to
yeah,
make your process and your ability stronger. It's like
yeah,
flexing a muscle. You got to use it. You got to know how to use it. You can go to the gym and just start working out, and you'll get some, toning. But if you work with a trainer or somebody that has some knowledge on that, you really get to refine the approach and you know sharpen the intuition.
yeah,
You know, so that's really very smart thing to do. It sounds like you already have as a nurse, you already have the bedside manner ability to work with clients and
yeah,
you know kind of empathize with where they're at.
of
You can
course.
take that and then get your impressions off of that. That's it's gold. It's fantastic. That's a great thing to have as far as a tool belt,
Thank you.
tool. Um, so as far
Yeah.
as clients, then you work with clients online and in person.
So everything so far has mostly been virtual. I actually haven't had
Okay.
anybody work with me in person yet, but that's not because it's not open. It's just because that hasn't happened so far.
Right.
But yeah, we have I just would work with somebody one on one. We're actually about to start venturing into doing a membership where it would be not as intensive one on one time, but more of a group, and then
Right.
have sessions with people that are also going through similar processes who are also hoping to get some changes and some transformation. So
Hmm.
there's always therapeutic benefit in that too, just like helping that validation, feeling like you're going through with somebody too. So
Right.
yeah,
Definitely.
that's really the two ways that I work with people for right now.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you've had clients that you've worked with. Anything that stands out as like a big success? Do you have any good testimonial or success stories?
Yes, I think let me see. One that comes to mind is a woman who was really struggling with brain fog and fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as we started going through the process of being able to clean up a little bit around, she had a couple things going on, but really, she started seeing a large shift when she started sleeping a little bit better. She opened up a little bit of her ability to start meditating. Like she wanted
Mm.
to try that. That was like on a little bit further down the road, but she wanted to try that. And so as soon as she did that and made a few changes in things that she was eating, because she realized that she thought she was maybe having a little bit of sensitivity to dairy, which she hadn't recognized before,
Mm.
and cut back on sugar, just like we were talking about earlier. And she had this drastic transformation. So she ended up saying one day, I feel like I am like totally different. I'm popping out of bed. I feel like I'm not having as much pain in my body. And I feel like I'm thinking faster. And I was like,
Ah, wow.
that's the goal. Like,
Yeah, there we
that's,
go.
you
Yeah.
like got it. And, it was all these little shifts that started domino affecting on each other. And,
Yeah.
it's powerful. I think
Hmm.
that people don't always understand how much power they're giving to other people
Right, right.
by always feeling like I need to go to someone to fix this for me, or I
Hmm.
need to do X, Y, and Z. And when you feel like you finally listened to your own body, had some realizations about it, and then fixed something on your own and felt a big difference, that's very empowering. It
Yeah,
feels awesome.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And gaining that benefit, sleep, that is
Yeah.
usually where I start. Even for myself, I am, sacrificing a lot of sleep, and I know what it's doing, and I know I'm doing it. I know the benefits of getting sleep too.
Yeah.
Um, I found that my wounds don't heal as fast. my digestion isn't as good. My mind
Mm-hmm.
is a lot more foggy.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things. And I know
Yep.
that if I start leveling out at some point with getting more rhythmic, good sleep,
Mm-hmm.
that I will, my automatic healing will start to happen. Uh, my pains will start to go away. Just sleep. It's amazing how just
Oh
aligning
yeah.
yourself with the right amount of sleep allows the body to do much of the work.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'm really I'm pro programming, like programming yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, sleep, but also allowing the subconscious to do background work while
Mm-hmm.
you're sleeping, while you're awake, whenever. So asking, like you could say, praying or um, activating, or
Mm-hmm.
just asking yourself to do X, Y, Z while you're asleep. It's a great time to do it because your conscious just shuts off and your
Right.
subconscious is there to do it. And I think utilizing that along with nutrition the way you are, it's definitely a definite good step forward, I'd say, for your clients, so that they can begin to see in a completely different light how they're living, and the benefits would probably come pretty quick, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think that the day when somebody just it feels like they always say that they wake up and they feel different. And so
Yeah.
it's when you wake up and you're like, huh, I feel like this is better than it was. Like that's the day that you're like, yes,
Right.
this feels good. And I'm going to keep going. Like
Right.
you have that little bit of a change and then you're like, okay, like it gives you the incentive. You want to keep going. You want to see what else there is. I mean, you can get
Yeah.
super
How far
curious.
can this go? Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
it's infinite. You can keep knowing yourself and figuring yourself out and
Right.
listening to yourself. And you really can
Yeah.
just keep going with it. So that's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's good. Yeah. And so you're doing this practice. You have the podcast,
Hmm.
and you're going to do not well group therapy, I guess, or group
Some group
courses. Is it
coaching. Yeah.
coaching? Okay.
Yeah.
And do you look forward? Do you see yourself maybe training others to do this method, the Synergy Thrive method?
I would hope so. I think that, down the line, I would hope that this kind of like coaching could be potentially like a health coaching in itself, that
Right.
maybe is like a certification. Because that to my mind would make sense. I also feel like in my other world, it's kind of like what you said almost earlier. Like I wish that I could reach more doctors and nurses because
Mm-hmm.
I know that if it makes a lot of sense to me, it's going to make a lot of
Right.
sense to them. And I have to still work on that one.
No,
But
it's. I mean, yeah. I mean, just it's realignment. It sounds like
yeah,
the synergy idea is bringing them all together, but also realigning like the client's approach
yeah.
to how they're living.
Hmm.
And nurses the front line could definitely use that. Just to they probably already know a lot of it, but
Hmm.
have they lined it up? You know,
Well,
ABCs of getting realigned, getting back to your power.
yeah. I think that there was a fair amount of deconstruction I had to do when I started doing a little bit of this work because we are taught about our bodies in silos. So it's
Mm.
like, this is your brain, this is your gut, like
Right.
they don't, there are feedback loops for hormones and things like that that are discussed and talked and or like taught in our education. But, it's not really looked at as this like synergistic whole. It's, if you're calling people for a consult in the hospital, you're calling cardiology or you're calling renal or you're
Right.
calling psych. And like, that's
Specialists.
literally how it's viewed. It's just
Yeah.
viewed as like separate and they don't always agree on, each other's ideas. And it's, it's harder than you would think it would be.
Yeah. To align the
to
different
like
practices. Or,
to like get probably somebody down into, they have to like deconstruct a little bit of how they were taught basically. I
mm,
think that it's like
wow.
we are literally view the body in silos
Yeah.
as if it doesn't interact with itself somehow. I mean, we know the body heals itself and we know these things, but
And that's
I
each
don't,
like specialist. Like
yeah,
you're not going to see a guy doing brain work thinking about the liver or anything like that. Like that's not going to be
it's not going to be
their world.
yeah.
The sphere, right?
I
Okay.
mean, there's always shades of gray within that, but a lot for this kind of like discussion, it's um, I think it just requires some deconstruction of like what you've been taught. It's
Yeah.
like a paradigm that I kind of had to break down in
Right.
order to start to come around to this notion of
For yourself
wellness.
as well.
Hmm.
Well, I
Yeah.
feel like nurses, and maybe there's just a whole lot of different nurses. Maybe I'm thinking general practice nurses. Not really sure what the term would be, but I feel like nurses are a little bit more, depending on, like, maybe it is depending on the focus, but I feel like nurses should be more rounded and all encapsulating the different approaches, because
Yes.
again, they're dealing with the client on a longer basis
Yeah.
than the quote unquote specialist, the
Yeah.
doctor. They're there for, maybe I'm thinking about it in the wrong way. Maybe I'm thinking general practitioner or something like that. To me, I don't think that specialists should be specialists. I feel like the specialist should, yes, conquer, the brain, but then also adapt and develop other skills in other parts of the body to try to unify that approach. And obviously that doesn't
Yeah.
happen, but I feel like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I know. I think that I think everybody's different, and there's a difference between a general like a care. I'm going to say there's in the world of nursing a difference between the nurse who's like at the bedside for like in a retirement home, and then
Mm,
like in a very high um like intensity job, like in a intensive care unit or something. Like
right, right.
those nurses are thinking about your body in totally different ways. And
Mm,
some of them are, and everybody's got their own individual things, but like,
yeah,
some of them lend themselves more to certain areas because they don't want to do all that touchy feely stuff. They don't want to talk about your emotions. They want you to be
right.
like, not
In
really
and out.
talk. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
and the other ones are like, no, I want to like, talk about it, and I want to get into it. So it's all like depends what you gravitate to. And there's
Right.
a bunch of different things you could do. But I do agree. I think that as a whole, I wish that this was like the standard that everybody would see that like your body is meant to all work together and that some of the basics like sleeping. I mean, we don't do that well in the hospital. We wake you up all night. We give you a
Oh
bath
yeah.
at 4 a.m. Like
Right.
we're just like, we got to get our stuff done. So it's like seriously
Yeah.
not
Wow.
the literally looking at the person who's so sick and you're like, yeah,
You
but I
make the
have all these
choice.
things to do. So it's
Yeah.
not actually usually doing the best
That's
for
a
this
really good
whole
point.
thing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Really good point about the sleep. And it's like every 3 hours, every 4 hours, they're in.
Or every 1 hour. Like it just depends how
Or
sick you are.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. It's and that's where you be healing and you really be
Right.
developing that subconscious healing power. And
Yeah.
yeah, definitely, that's a good point. The sleep is one of the biggest factors. So what you'd want, rest,
Yes.
rest.
Yes,
You
I
know.
know.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah.
Now, mom of two,
Yeah.
and you love tea, right?
I do.
Okay.
I do. Random fact.
Yeah, random fact. Favorite tea?
I have a green tea kombucha tea
Mm,
that is my favorite. So
okay.
I
Wow,
do like that
kombucha.
one.
Okay.
Hmm.
And do you get to travel at all, or is that something that aren't able to do with the kids, or?
Um, we try to. So my kids now are 5 and 8. So we're a little bit into that place where they're more mobile. They
Mhm.
can like roll their own luggage. Um, we were big travelers usually before we had
Okay.
kids. So,
Yeah.
like this past year, we went on a trip to Canada and we did a lot of hiking. We went to the Canadian Rockies. That was
Oh,
probably one of
that's all
my
great
top
things. Yep.
trips. I mean,
Yep.
I've been to a lot of places, and that was legitimately
It's amazing.
so
Yeah.
beautiful. And my kids loved it too. So, like, we saw all this wildlife. And some of the places there were very just, they were so beautiful that, like, I mean, I'm not an emotional person, but I was like, like
Yeah.
crying. It was like so pretty. Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. A lot of really nice people too.
Oh yeah, I love Canada. Canada's
Yeah.
fantastic. I've been to. I'm trying to think where that is now. Whistler, and I'm not even sure if that's the Rockies or if that's part of the Cascades or whatever it is there. Whistler, which is BC, and then Rocky. What is it? Glacier National Park. Been through there, which is beautiful, right just south of the border from Banff and all that.
Yeah.
And Yellowstone, just amazing. One of my favorite places I've ever been, and has that almost masterpiece. Makes you just feel like, yeah, you're gonna cry for the
I
beauty of
know.
the waterfall in the distance. Looks like a painting.
Yeah.
You've probably seen paintings with that on there because people have painted it. It's just an
Yep.
amazing. The landscape is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely one of my favorite. Now, do you have a favorite place that you've been that you've traveled to?
Well, before I went there, my other favorite place was Japan. We've
Oh,
gone to Japan before kids, but
yeah,
loved Japan. I
yeah.
loved Kyoto.
Hmm.
And we went to Kyoto, we went to Tokyo. We were lucky enough that somebody that my husband had grown up with was living in Tokyo
Hmm.
because, yeah, we got off that tram coming off the airport and there was like nothing in English. We couldn't find
Oh,
English anywhere. It was all in Japanese. And I was like,
yeah.
well, guys, what are we going to do? So that was a beautiful, beautiful place. And the
Yeah.
culture was amazing and the people were amazing. And I loved it so much. So that was probably my top place. Um, but yeah, now it's the Canadian Rockies. Has my
Okay.
heart.
Oh, so it's now switched. Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
it is. It's amazing. I love the Rockies in general, but
Yep.
further north you go, the more untouched and more dramatic. I feel like it gets.
Yeah.
I love Colorado, but
Me too.
Montana, amazing. It's just, wow,
I know.
it's
We
wild.
we my husband also has his cousins live in Colorado, so we used to
Okay.
ski in Colorado all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and I was a person who, even though I'm an okay skier, like I'm fine skiing down the mountain, but
Yeah.
I wanted to hike. They'd have these little peaks in some of the ski resorts where you don't go all the way up on the lift. You could like hike up a little
Right.
bit farther so that you could see the back of the mountain. And I
Mm-hmm.
would do that with my friends and probably almost kill myself trying to come down the way I shouldn't have been coming down. It was like a triple black. That's not even a thing, but it felt like it to me.
Yeah.
And because I just wanted to see the back bowl because it was
Mm.
so gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I love it. Yeah, I
Yeah. Very
love
dramatic.
the
Very
mountains.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
recommend.
Do you have you worked with any nurses at all? Would that be like your typical client that you work with? Do you see them as people that are already in need, or are there just seekers? What would you say
Um,
as far as like who's looking for the synergy method, the synergy
I'm
thrive method?
The people that I tend to attract are people who are looking to have their message out there. So I feel like they're looking to do something and they feel like they're not feeling well enough to do it. So, and
Okay.
it's ended up being a lot of female business owners and moms that
Oh,
are
moms.
like, I'm feeling like I want to be a better mom and I feel like
Right.
crap. Or I feel like, I mean, because that's a giant job
Yeah.
and it's one of the most important jobs.
It's a
Um,
career too.
it
you know.
absolutely is.
Yeah.
It 100% is. And so, yeah, moms and business owners is like who I tend to have worked with so far the most, it seems like.
Yeah.
And it could be also just the circles that I'm in that are lending itself to that too as well. But yeah, I I think anybody who is just in that place where they feel like they want to feel better is the perfect person, really.
Right.
But
Right.
I have had, I think that the people that are more drawn to it are the people who are the ambitious, like the go, go, go people that are just like doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe they're getting a little burnt out and they feel like they have a lot to offer this world. And they don't feel like they're good. They feel good enough to like be on their peak game. And,
Right. Right.
you know, that's a
Yeah.
place where the rubber meets the road. Like you feel like you have to do something to change. And so that's it. Like,
Yeah.
come work
And
with me.
would you say that? Yeah, exactly, and thrive.
and thrive. Yeah.
Would you say that the method that you're doing that it so it clears blocks, like it takes away stumbling blocks that might be in somebody's way from
Yeah.
achieving their true potential, that sort of
Yeah.
thing?
Truly getting past even just having the awareness sometimes of, let's say, just a simple awareness of a negative thought that maybe it's just on autopilot
Hmm.
and it keeps coming around and coming around and coming around. Um, Recently, we were talking to somebody who just felt like she was having all this stress. And we were talking about, okay, well, what is it coming from? And what's, like, where's it around? She's like, I don't want to open up my bank account. I don't
Hmm.
even want to like look at my credit card statement. And I'm like, okay, so we're specifically talking about money. We're
Mm-hmm.
specifically talking about money stress, which, but that unraveled into a whole other thing that it was like a pattern in her life that was continuing on. And this stress was also making her feel terrible. So she was waking up, she was having panic attacks, like the
Hmm.
things that it was causing her. Um, and so, yeah, we needed to kind of like have an awareness around it and then start to go through our process and go through our framework to move through some of this and have other tools also. So, I like to use breath work to break through some of the stressful patterns that are coming up, or even like release some of the emotional things that are coming up. A lot of people have stuck stress, stuck emotion. Um, and they can't figure out how to get it out or what to do with it. And so it just keeps coming and coming and coming. So breath work, and that's been a very transformational practice to be able to share with people.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, breath work, breathing, sleeping, good ways to approach the beginning steps. And now, do you have a website that you have for contact, or how do you meet people and work with
Yeah.
people?
Um, the best way is through synergythrive.org. And so that's my website. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok, but like the best place is really my website. So you can kind of check, we have the things. You can also check out our podcast, Synergy Thrive Podcast, and, a lot of different information there and links, and all of our free stuff is there too. So we have the podcast, which is obviously free. But then we also have, um, we do what I call healing circles. And so we'll have like a free time when we'll have a small group of people come together, and we'll be leading through a light meditation and some breathing. And if people are open to it, I'll even do a little bit of like tap in intuitively to see if they feel like they're struggling with anything that I can get a read on. And that's just quick, like 30 minutes. And you leave like feeling a little bit more relaxed and more connected. And that's kind of just a taste of how we
Yeah,
start to work through things. So,
that's
yeah.
great. That's great. Okay. That's fantastic. So I'll link to everything in the description for the podcast and
Yeah.
YouTube as well. That way, easy access to it. Well,
Perfect.
Kelly, thank you for coming on the show today. Great to have you.
Thank
And
you for having me.
we're gonna have to listen to your podcast as well and see what you're doing there as too. That is the Synergy Thrive podcast, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Fantastic, excellent. Well,
Yeah.
thank you again for being here, and we hope you have a very successful and positive year.
Thank you. Same to you.
Yeah, thank you. Take care.